Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Do Not Wreck This Journal. I'll be doing 3 prompts in this episode. The first prompt is draw fat lines and thin, pressing really hard with a pencil, and it's not just pencil that I'm going to be using. The second prompt is where I'm going to get my hands dirty because I have to use my hands and fingerprints for this page. And the third page is going to be really fun because I have this entire page to color. So stay tuned till the end as it is going to be a very interesting episode. And by any chance, if you haven't watched episode 1 of Do Not Wreck This Journal on my channel, you can check out the description or the I button or also just visit my channel. So starting out with the first prompt where the instructions are to draw fat and thin lines pressing really hard with a pencil. And I am following the prompt but only for the initial stages. I will be giving it a twist because it's just more fun that way. So if you can't tell already, I'm drawing the veins of a leaf. When I first read this prompt, I did not have any ideas. And as I was looking for inspiration around me, I came across a leaf. And then it struck me that if you look closely, the leaves have a pattern. And it's more or less lines because the veins look like lines. And that's how I decided to use it for this prompt. Since I had poked holes in the previous prompt, I couldn't draw on the other side for this prompt. So I decided to use separate pieces of paper. I picked out 2 handmade papers because I wanted to make use of the texture. And I also wanted to make 2 types of leaves. One would be a green leaf and the other would be a fall kind of leaf. So it's going to be more like yellow and orange. If you're wondering why the sketches do not look like leaves, I was wondering the same thing. But I decided to trust the process, and as I went ahead with painting the textures, I could see the leaves coming together. So I decided to go ahead with initial washes of watercolor. I started out with a light green, but once it dried, it just did not show up on the paper, so I went darker and darker as the layers dried and just tried to add a bit of yellow to add some variation in the leaf. I really liked how the first few layers started to bring out the texture of the leaf. For the second leaf, I wanted to do a fall style leaf just to add a bit of contrast on both pages. Once the watercolor layers dried, the papers warped along the edges a little bit, and I think it just added to the texture of the leaves. Now it was time to add the details and the layering that would make the lines show up. So I started using a white pencil to show the highlights, and after this I used some crayons to add depth along these highlights. When I started out with sketching, I had no idea how I would execute it and how it would all come together, but I trusted the process and just let myself loose as I was adding the details. And I think in the end, it looks alright. And this is how it finally looks. I think the yellow leaf was a little bit trickier than the green one, but I like both of them. Let me know how you think both of these turned out and how you like my execution of this prompt. After the drawings were finished, all that was left to do was to stick them, but I also wanted the background to be a little more in sync with the prompt, so I decided to add some color with chalk pastels. And if you're wondering about the ugly leaf on top of the yellow one, I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to hide the holes from the previous page, so I just had some scrap paper and just did that. I would also like to mention that chalk pastels can be a good addition to the list of supplies you can use on this thin paper of the journal. And it would come in handy to add color to large areas and add backgrounds just like I did with this prompt. And that's the final look of this page. Now let's move on to the next prompt. This prompt is all about getting messy because the instruction says use your handprints or fingerprints to cover this page. So I decided to go with thumbprints. I'm painting my thumb with colors and I'll be stamping them on the pages. I thought I could first stamp my thumbprints on these pages and then decide where I wanted to take it. And as I was doing this activity, I felt like a kid. Watching these blobs filling up these pages, I could see them as fish underwater and some other sea creatures as well. So I decided to turn this into an underwater scene, where some of these blobs will be turned into fish while others will become some other sea creatures. As these blobs were drying, I started adding some underwater elements like corals and moved ahead with adding details to these blobs so they can come to life. After sketching everything lightly, I picked out my acrylic markers and started adding colors to the elements in the background. While adding the details to the blobs, I just went ahead with mark making and turned them into very cartoonish looking creatures. My least favorite of the lot would be these jellyfish because I did not like how they turned out, but nonetheless, I still had fun making them. After I was done adding details to the creatures, it was now time to finish up the background. So I picked up my watercolors and then started to fill all the blank space. But I soon realized that it was not the ideal medium to use on this paper, so I switched to soft pastels again and just added the sea in the background. And this is how this page finally turned out. It's cute, it's cartoonish, and I like it. Let me know in the comments how you think it turned out. And now let's finally move on to the last prompt for this episode, which is to color this entire page. For this prompt, I decided to prep this page with some gesso and I covered everything, and I'll be using this white wax crayon to add some hidden elements. I'll be using the crayon resist technique, and what I'm going to do with the crayon is going to be a surprise until I add color to this page. But first, let's get the sketch on the paper. Since this prompt gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to do, it was really difficult to narrow down to just one thing. From a long list of things to choose from, I decided to do something inspired by one of my favorite films, which is Lord of the Rings. There is so much to take away from the series, but one thing that stuck with me was a quote, and that's what I'm writing with this white crayon. And now it's time for the big reveal. You can see the magic happening as I'm applying a wash of watercolor. The writing underneath shows through because the wax in the crayon is resisting the watercolors. And I know that you cannot read the quote properly because maybe the wax was weak at some places, but it reads, "Not all those who wander are lost." It's such a beautiful quote and I connect with it deeply. I feel like I am in that phase of life at the moment where I want to try so many things and I don't have just one hobby, one interest, or just one goal, but I want to explore them all and see how things turn out. So I feel like I'm in that stage, and that's why this quote just speaks to me. So, what could be better than painting a Hobbit house door, the iconic Hobbit house door, to go along with this quote? This painting is something very different from what I've attempted in the past, and I was a bit nervous because I did not want to mess up, but I also wanted to have fun because art is all about having fun, right? So I just gave into the process, and I think I was doing this at 2 in the morning, and it took me around 2 hours to finish this, and it was already 4 when I was done. I lost track of time so much that I did not even keep a check on my phone's battery, and when I was done painting, I saw that my phone had already died. But thankfully, most of the process was recorded, so I took a sigh of relief, and I was really happy with how my painting turned out. I finally added some more details with white paint, especially to the quote because it did not show up that clearly. And this is how it turned out. I really like this page, and it's going to be one of my favorites in this journal. Let me know your thoughts in the comments how you think this page turned out, and I also painted over the prompt so nobody's going to know what that prompt said. Now let's take a final look at all the prompts I completed today. I hope you liked this episode of Do Not Wreck This Journal, and I'm so excited for other episodes to come in. So if you don't want to miss future episodes of Wreck This Journal, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.